Blinkist is the app that helps you become a more well-rounded person by letting you read or listen to an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. You can try it for free and get 25% off a subscription by going to Blinkist.com/David Pakman. I know that these stories have become exhausting, but it is important to keep them in the public spotlight. Another one of these anti-vaccine so-called Christians has died of COVID. And this is not just an anti-vaccine Christian. This is someone who was pushing Ivermectin and pushing hydroxychloroquine. The New York Times reports that Marcus Lamb, a Christian broadcaster and vaccine skeptic, has died of COVID. This was the co-founder of the Daystar television network. Over the years, we've played lots of wacky clips of non-empirically based claims from shows on the Daystar network. Marcus Lamb, Christian broadcaster in Dallas, dismissive of COVID vaccinations, died Tuesday after contracting the virus. Mr. Lamb was 64. Frequently suggested on his Christian TV network that people pray instead of getting inoculated. He had to be rushed to the hospital when his oxygen levels dropped, quote, all of a sudden after he contracted the virus. Mr. Lamb's wife and son confirmed his death on Tuesday on Ministry Now, the show the couple hosted. It was not immediately clear when he tested positive or where he died. The network did not respond to requests for comment. He hosted a bunch of different shows. Daystar broadcasters, including the Lambs, repeatedly questioned the efficacy of the vaccine. On May 10th, they said that the vaccine could be killing your immune system. That's false. We want to warn you. We want to help you. We want to give you an alternative. What was the alternative? Well, instead of getting vaccinated, quote, we can pray, we can get ivermectin and budesonide and hydroxychloroquine. Those drugs are not approved for COVID treatment by the FDA. He also denounced vaccination mandates for school children. On November 18th, Ms. Lamb said her husband contracted the virus after she had. He had diabetes, which exacerbated his symptoms. Last month, Jonathan Lamb, the son, said his father's COVID battle was the result of a spiritual attack from the enemy. Folks, how do we react to this, right? I mean, believe the vaccine, said the vaccine killed your immune system, believed that getting COVID is a spiritual attack from the enemy, suggested prayer and ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine as a treatment. Incredible damage potential that this individual has done. And now he's dead of COVID. What's our reaction? I know people like the Eggman feel nothing but pleasure at the fact that this individual has died. I still have a very hard time gloating about the death of anybody. But I think the message here is not only was his message potentially damaging to people who watched this drivel, it may have also been what led to him dying as well. And maybe we leave it there. Maybe there isn't more to say. But another one of the, and it's emotionally exhausting. It's exhausting from a public health standpoint. But these anti-vax Christians and right wingers who have media presences, they continue to die, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon. Hey, this is really genuinely hilarious. Tucker Carlson bravely covered on his program Wednesday the fact that CNN host Brian Stelter fired his nanny because she wouldn't get vaccinated. Now, what's really, really funny about this segment, first of all, why is Tucker firing the personal home staff decisions of hosts on other networks? I don't know. He doesn't have bigger and better things to do. But the really funny thing is, in hearing the leaked audio of Brian Stelter explaining it, Brian Stelter sounds eminently reasonable. I never have cared about Brian Stelter. Now, after hearing what he did, I'm like, wow, he really seems to be thoughtful about what he's doing. Let's get right into the segment and take a listen to this. This is supposed to be an indictment of Brian Stelter. But I'm thinking, wow, he really cares about his kids.
So as we told you last night, and you may have noticed, CNN pulled its top-rated anchor, Chris Cuomo, off the air for the crime of helping his brother. But you can't just pull someone off TV. You have to let people know ahead of time. Otherwise, you're going to have about a dozen people tuning in and wondering, wait, where's the steroid guy? Now, that's actually kind of funny. Okay, but now we'll go from Chris Cuomo to Brian Stelter. CNN, the Dwarf King dispatched his eunuch with the news that Chris Cuomo was being pulled off indefinitely suspended. What's so interesting and tells you so very much about CNN is we learned today that the eunuch himself would like Chris Cuomo's job. Ooh, the betrayal, Mr. Beria.
By the way, the eunuch, I guess, is his nickname for Brian Stelter.
So interesting. So it raises the question, what kind of person is CNN's media critic?
Right.
We've come across audio that answers that question.
Uh-oh.
So here is, and we're going to use his name for the first time, Brian Stelter, explaining to a group of people that he has fired his nanny, who of course remains nameless, because she refused to get the injection. Listen to this.
You know, me and my wife both work full time. We both make enough money to have a nanny during the day in New York, and our nanny refuses to get vaccinated, and so we are parting ways with her. And it was very, very sad that we thought after 6 months of seeing the vaccines are all good and everybody's fine that she would come around.
He gave her 6 months, guys. It sounds eminently reasonable. Brian Stelter has a nanny. I don't know how many kids he has. He just says, I don't know. I'm sure I could. It doesn't matter. Maybe the kids can get vaccinated, maybe not, based on their age. Doesn't really matter. You want your kids to be spending time around vaccinated people. They didn't even say to the nanny, you got to get vaccinated today or you're gone. They gave the nanny 6 months of being unvaccinated, saying she'll come around. We like the nanny. We don't want to get rid of the nanny. And she didn't come around. What on earth is the controversy here? And Tucker Carlson apparently thinks this makes Brian Stelter look bad.
So the headline here is that CNN's media critic blithely dismissed his little non-white servant because she didn't obey. And
now, do we know the nanny isn't white? I don't know about that. But when he says blithely means it's casual and cheerful indifference that is callous or improper. The audio says it was very sad and we gave her 6 months. We said, okay, we'll get in the next 6 months. Once we know everything that now we know about the vaccines, she'll come around and she didn't. That doesn't sound blithely to me.
that is, quote, very, very sad. Well, how sad? How sad was he exactly?
Doesn't sound blithe to me.
Did he pay her health insurance until she finds a new job? What is she doing to eat and pay her rent now that she's been dismissed by CNN's very sad media critic? We don't really care what happens to our servants, do we, when they disobey? So we asked CNN today. Of course, we got no answer at all, which is itself.
Why would CNN give Tucker information about Brian Stelter's privately hired nanny? This is crazy. This is a story on Tucker Carlson.
An answer, which is we don't know. We don't care. Tells you a lot.
What an insane story to be covering. That just really makes you wonder, what exactly is Tucker Carlson's real issue here with vaccines, if there is one? Because my belief is Tucker Carlson is smart enough to realize that as a decision, it's a completely reasonable decision, particularly when you give a 6 month runway of saying, all right, we don't like it, but we do like the nanny. She's going to stick around. We're going to give her 6 months. Hopefully she'll get vaccinated. She's still not getting vaccinated. We're going to have to part ways. I am sure that privately, Tucker Carlson knows that that's completely reasonable. There's no way that he's so stupid as to think that this is really the blithe act of an individual. But it is obvious that he is completely captured by what his audience expects him to be saying. And that really doesn't excuse what he's doing. It really doesn't. But I think that that's really the explanation, because I have a very hard time believing Tucker is this stupid. And this story choice, of course, the nanny of a host on a different network is a story. Imagine if I started coming here and telling you guys about the things Sam Seder is doing with his large domestic staff. I'm making that up. I don't know of any domestic staff that Sam Seder has. But you all would rightly say, David, what exactly is the news here? What are you talking about? And that's exactly the reaction we should have with Tucker. This is for clicks, and it's working. It's working, guys. It's working really, really well for him. We are going to be doing, this is so soon now, we are going to be doing the next the final of 2021 viewer town hall. All of you are welcome to call in, and I hope that you will. Here's the details. December 14th, 6 p.m. Eastern. December 14th, 6 p.m. Eastern. Where will it be streaming if you want to watch? If you want to watch, the town hall will stream on the Pacman Live YouTube channel. That's the second YouTube channel. YouTube.com/PacmanLive. If you want to participate in the town hall, beautiful. Everybody's welcome. Wide open. We will take calls via Discord at davidpakman.com/Discord. Everyone's welcome. We will also have a priority channel on Discord for our website members. So if you want your shot at getting on to increase dramatically, sign up at joinpakman.com. Not only will you get the daily bonus show, the commercial-free audio and video streams of the show, you will get a member-only priority channel during the December 14th town hall. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back after this with quite a program for you today. One of our sponsors is Blinkist, who's been supporting the David Pakman Show longer than any other sponsor. Blinkist is the app that lets you listen to or read an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. Blinkist is the way to absorb those books you can't make time for. Blinkist takes top nonfiction titles, pulls out the book's key takeaways and insights, and gives it to you in the form of a text or audio explainer that you can consume in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, now you actually do have time to learn about all the things you've been wanting to tackle. On the Blinkist app, I just listened to This Is Your Mind on Plants by the great Michael Pollan. Super interesting, the history of caffeine and so many other things. Blinkist has you covered on podcasts too. Blinkist takes long episodes of popular podcasts and distills them into audio you can listen to in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, you can become knowledgeable about so many different things. You can have conversations with people about more topics. Blinkist makes you more well-rounded. Try Blinkist for free and get 25% off a subscription. Go to Blinkist.com/David Pakman. The link is down below. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. Remember that we are primarily supported by viewers like you, listeners like you, people who read the show maybe. There are transcripts. You might just be a reader. Who sign up for membership on our website at joinpakman.com. I would love for you to do so, and you'll get instant access to the daily bonus show, commercial-free audio and video streams of the show, priority access to the viewer town halls, like the one we have coming up on December 14th at 6 p.m., etc., etc. All right, let's hear from some of you right now. You can call in via the David Pakman Show Discord at davidpakman.com/Discord. Let's start today with Spiel from Nashville, Tennessee. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Hey, yeah, that's correct.
Beautiful. What's on your mind today?
I guess just wanted to say, would Democrats maybe losing in 2022, or say like Republicans maybe gaining seats in 2022 actually help Democrats in 24, given the kind of swing cycle of these elections?
I don't think so, for two different reasons. Number one, the whole swing nature of these elections is midterms after the party in the White House changes in the immediately previous election. So it's not just, it's all swings. So it's better in 24 for Democrats if they lose in 22. I don't know of any historical data that would suggest that. It's also sort of accelerationist in a way, the idea that by making things get worse, you then create circumstances in which things get better. And historically, it's just not worked that way. Like, we've looked at whether that's a thing, and it really isn't. It's really been like the big progressive gains have been made through incremental progress and continuation, the progressive era, late 19th century up until about 1915, civil rights era, the New Deal era. I kind of mentioned them out of order there. So no, I don't. I mean, it's a totally reasonable question to ask. The only caveat to that, Spiel, would be if it's not about making things worse by having Republicans win in 22 or whatever, but if the perceived danger levels for 24 are higher for left-wing voters because Republicans win in 22, and then it motivates them in some way, maybe there would be an argument to be made there. But overall, I just think Democrats would be best served to do as well as possible in 22, and then again in 24. I wouldn't play these kind of back and forth games with it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because I feel like yeah, definitely, whatever people or whatever can get Democrats to go out and vote more in 24 to me seems like most advantageous for Democrats.
Right.
So, thanks for taking my call, man.
All right. Thank you. Spiel from Nashville. Thank you so much. Let's go next to Steph from Wisconsin. Steph, you are on the air.
Hey, David. Thanks for calling on me.
My pleasure.
I have a question. What are your thoughts on the new travel restrictions in terms of people now needing a test 24 hours in advance? Well, as before, I believe it was 72 hours.
Yeah. I heard about this because a friend of mine sent me a message while we were filming the show about it. He travels regularly and I do too. And I've had, I guess it's 3 trips since the start of the pandemic for which I've needed return tests to come back to the United States. I think it's very, very problematic from a logistical standpoint. Now, I don't know whether it will prevent disease from spreading. It may or it may not. I really don't know. From a logistical standpoint, it's actually very difficult right now to get. Well, first of all, if you're looking at a PCR test, which is the most accurate, I don't know of any place where you can get it guaranteed within 24 hours. Maybe there's some places, but especially in other parts of the world, it's very, very tough, which means that you're going to be overwhelmingly relying on antigen tests. Now, the antigen test, I don't know if you heard my story from when I was in Spain in August, but on the way back, my girlfriend had 2 false positive antigen tests. We ultimately went and got a PCR, but it took 6 hours to find it and then another 24 to get the result. If we had been within 24 hours of the flight, we would have simply been stuck in Spain because of the less reliable antigen tests. So I just logistically, I don't know how this is going to be managed. And when I read that, I was thinking, it looks like I'm traveling domestically for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. That was exactly what I was wondering in terms of the rapid tests over the more reliable ones. So that answered it exactly. Thank you.
And, in some airports, like I remember when I was flying through Frankfurt, you could get antigen tests and there would be different prices for different time windows, but it was all the same test. Mm-hmm. So if you had 24 hours, then it was like $80. And if you needed it within 6 hours for a flight, it was $150. And if you needed it within 1 hour, you could pay like $350. But it was all the same test. And of course, the risk would be if you get a false positive, you're kind of screwed either way,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Steph, thank you for the call. Thanks. Very good question. Yeah. All right. There goes Steph. Very good. All right, let's keep talking to people. Why don't we? Maybe against my better judgment, let's go to Eric from Cancun. Eric from Cancun has delivered some of the best calls we've ever had, and also some so atrocious I've had to cut them early. Eric, what's on your mind today?
Hi, David. First, I want to apologize about the last time we called. The thing is that it wasn't out of bad faith. It was out of not knowing how to put my ideas into words. I do apologize for the last time we called. The thing I want to talk about, can I talk about my autism, my Asperger?
If you would like, yeah. And remember, we have a lot of people waiting to chat. So ideally, if you have a question, that would be the ideal thing.
Okay. I want to clear out the doubts of anti-vaxxers because I want to tell you that it doesn't cause autism, the vaccine. I was born with it, and here are some symptoms with it. It doesn't turn me into a shape-shifting monster, although I wish to, like Beast Boy and Mystique from X-Men. What it does is that I lack of some emotional intelligence. And have you seen the The Big Bang Theory? For Sheldon, I'm like Sheldon Cooper. There's a gag where he goes to the door and he knocks like this, penny, penny, penny. And some Asperger's have those type of tics that have some motions. For example, because I play the piano, sometimes I pretend to play the piano when I hear a song I like. Also, very literal. For example, if you think of an electric plant, someone could think of a Christmas tree. It might be just me or might be from Asperger's, but I'm also brutally honest. Have you seen the movie Liar, Liar?
I have.
like in the movie Liar Liar, that they tell the truth without filter.
Right. All right. Well, very good, Eric. I appreciate you calling in, and we always love hearing from you.
But trust me that if I say something inappropriate, it's not out of bad faith, and I apologize if I do.
Well, you've never said anything that I'm aware of in bad faith, Eric. Thank you.
Okay, I wish to call you soonly and tell you more about other things.
All right, very good. Now, one thing, Eric, I was under the impression that we don't use the term Asperger's anymore because it refers to a Nazi doctor, and so we just say low on the autism spectrum. Have you heard of that?
No, because I do have Asperger's, and my psychiatrist told me that it's okay if I use that term.
Okay. All right, very good. Eric, thank you. Weather is good in Cancun today?
It's right now rainy, and all year is like a sauna, but right now it's like in summer where you live. Are you in Los Angeles, right?
No, I will be in Los Angeles next week, actually, but I'm in the Northeast. All right, Eric, thank you very much. Appreciate the call. We love hearing from Eric from Cancun, and glad to hear that you are doing well. Let's go next to Sam in New York City. Sam, you are on the air.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to get your take on the potential of reintroducing, what's it called? Earmarks into bills, given like how difficult it's been to pass some of these major bills the Democrats have been trying to get through Congress. And I understand the potential to lead corruption, but I feel like earmark could be a good way to get these bills past the 50 Senate limit.
Nah, I don't like it. You're making it a Pyrrhic victory. I understand the idea, which is, you start allowing for more goodies in these bills and you'll get people to support them. But I would consider it a Pyrrhic victory. It would be a victory in which you do so much damage that do you really come out ahead? I don't like it. No, I don't think we should go backwards.
Even if it's like, all right, name some bridge after Joe Manchin for
I don't know.
$50 million, or
it's like a lot of times those things aren't done at the federal level anyway. I'm not sure. It doesn't strike me. I think the right way to do it is elect a few more Democrats.
I guess my thought is that the marginal cost of an earmark is way less than the benefits of passing some of these bills overall. But I get what you're saying. If it is just a Pyrrhic victory, if it's going to lead to something that's sort of inadequate, then of course there's no point.
I mean, the marginal cost of one earmark might be small, but if you say let's just start handing out earmarks again, it's not going to be just one that you're exchanging for the bill. It's going to be dozens, hundreds, whatever.
That's true.
I don't know. Anything else, Sam?
No, that's it. I just want to get your take. Thanks so much.
All right, appreciate it. There's Sam from New York City. Great to hear from you, of course. Let's go next to Tanner from Duluth, Minnesota.
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air.
Sweet. Do I sound good?
It's beautiful audio, I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So in Minnesota, a lot of industry goes on here and stuff like that. And I was just wondering if, if you noticed all the like strikes and labor movement going on right now, do you think that Democrats should be doing more to support it or support unions? Because I feel like, back decades ago, like people in unions used to be like hardcore Democrat voters, and now it seems like unions kind of went by the wayside and they don't really care about them anymore. And a lot of people in unions actually vote Republican now, especially like in the trades, which used to be like very, very blue. Yeah,
you're completely right. So in terms of the strikes and making progress in terms of labor, I think it's a perfect opportunity. We have seen, the pandemic has been basically horrible in all ways. But if we want to say, hey, what are maybe some good things to come from it? One is the rapid advancement of mRNA technology for other types of vaccines. And now there's all sorts of different advancement that's happening there. And it's created this opportunity in the kind of shutdown and then restarting in many industries for workers to say, hey, you know, we're going to come back if and when we get better conditions, better pay, et cetera. So I think the opportunity is an extraordinary one. I would like to see Democrats be more openly supportive of unions. I also think it's important to kind of couch the union discussion in proper context, because there are some people who say, I would like to see every employee be part of a union. You know, the truth is, with small businesses with very few employees being an overwhelmingly large portion of the work that is out there, mom and pops with 2-3 employees, etc. My opinion is that really doesn't lend itself to unionization. I think there are other ways to empower workers there and create a safety net. And, you know, some states have put in place paid medical and family leave, regardless of employer size. Yeah, I think so I think our expectations have to be reasonable that at the mom and pop level, unions are probably not the future of democratizing labor. There's other things. But yes, I would like to see more successes come from the strikes that we are seeing. I think the timing could not possibly be better. Leverage is something that has not been at this level for workers for a really long time. And I'd like to see Democratic elected officials be more supportive for sure.
Totally. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks,
All right,
Tanner.
well,
appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. First time caller. Love your show.
All right. Thank you so much. There's Tanner from Duluth. What a phone call. What a phone call. Let's take a very quick break. But if you're holding, don't hang up, because we're going to go right back to the phones momentarily. Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time, and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpakman.com and use the coupon code BETTER21 for a huge discount. Joinpakman.com. All right, let's go back to the phones and hear from a few more people. We take calls via Discord at davidpakman.com/Discord. Let's go to Jordan in Richmond, Virginia. Jordan, you're on the air. Jordan in Richmond, please unmute yourself so we can chat. Would love to hear from you. And last opportunity for Jordan. I see you're talking, but you have muted yourself or your mic isn't working, so we can't hear you. All right, that's too bad. Jordan from Richmond was really hoping that would work. Let's go to, is it Issa from London? Is that right, Issa?
That's right. Hey, David. How's it going, man?
It's going well.
Yeah, I actually didn't think that you would choose me, so I guess I just wanted to say thanks for covering the Rittenhouse trial. It was pretty entertaining and informative as well. You know, I honestly don't know much about U.S. law, so I was learning as well, and with your coverage and the coverage from your fans. So, yeah, thanks for covering that. And
My
that
pleasure.
judge was a real horror show.
Why didn't you think I would call on you? I'm curious.
Because I don't know. There's loads of people in the chat, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, now
But
tell
thanks
me
anyway, I
this.
appreciate that.
Was
Yeah.
the entire vigilante militia scene that was the context of the trial insane to you as a person who's in London?
Yeah, it was because you know, obviously, we don't have guns or anything. So the whole idea of, especially a kid who's underage at the time, just picking up some gun from his armory and just running around playing Call of Duty, that's just like you never hear of that. Like, as an English person, you will never hear of something like this in your lifetime ever. So that was crazy.
That's interesting. So, like, for you, is it even hard to say? Well, I guess so as you watch the trial, were you most interested in the specific defense or just the general context in which all of this was taking place?
You know, when I was coming in, I was interested in the whole thing, but as I was watching the trial, I became more and more interested in Kyle's defense. And I was, you know, this might sound a bit controversial, and I'm not, by saying this, I'm not saying that I support Kyle in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
But honestly, I was drawn to his defense lawyers and the way they worked, honestly, because I think they took full advantage of the judge with the whole pixelated video thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, asking for a mistrial over and over again. I was drawn to the way they were working, honestly.
Yeah, it was definitely compelling to see. No question about it. All right. Thank you so much for your perspective. I appreciate it.
Thanks for taking my call, David.
All right. Take care. There is Issa from London. Let's go next. There's a lot of people wanting to get on today. Very interesting folks. Oh, let's go to our friend Scott from Pensacola, who we've spoken before, right, Scott? Scott from Pensacola, you're on the air if you unmute yourself. Oh, boy.
You got me yet?
Yes, now you're on.
All right, excellent. So the question I've got today is, what do you think the general public can kind of do as far as people that are concerned with the way things are going with some of these school board meetings and the potential for violence with some of them?
Oof, it's so tough because saying that the answer is to show up to counter the wacky school board people is only likely to trigger them more and maybe even likely to cause violence in and of itself because these people are so volatile. So it's very tough to say. I mean, one idea that's been suggested is that there's a temporary hiatus of public comment at school board meetings, but my instinct is never to suppress speech. And I don't know about you, Scott, but my instinct is that that's not how I want to fix a problem. So it's very, very tough. I mean, maybe there need to be more strictly enforced rules of decorum at these school board meetings. I don't know, but it's become a mess.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that if we were to limit speech at those sorts of things, it could end up with a slippery slope and some unintended consequences.
I mean, I think that one thing maybe is that the people who act out like children they're adults legally, but they act like children. They really should be shamed and humiliated in their communities. I mean, my instinct is that sometimes people go up, like, remember, we played a video of a girl and her dad who both quoted Hitler in their opposition to masks, and people in the crowd cheered. And so if those folks were ostracized and humiliated in their communities, my guess is they'd be less likely to do this stuff. But they're not going to be ostracized and humiliated when half the community seems to agree with them, And
then they'll just cry cancel culture if that happens anyway.
Yeah. No, it's a tough question, but it's wacky what's going on.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, David.
Hey, listen, before you go, is the Gulf Breeze Pensacola Bridge finally reopened, or what's going on down there?
So the Gulf Breeze Pensacola Bridge is open for 2 lanes in each direction. So for those who don't know, during Hurricane Sally, some barges that were used by the construction company got loose and damaged the bridge, and it was shut down and everybody had to take a toll road around, and it really ruined traffic around here for about 9 months.
Yeah, I mean, didn't it make what can be a 15-minute trip like a 75-minute trip by having to drive all the way around?
Yeah, if you had to go all the way around, yes.
Yeah.
To get to downtown Pensacola, there were a lot of businesses that suffered on both sides of the bridge. So hopefully the litigation that's involved with that will make some things right.
Yeah. Yeah, we have friends down there who live in Gulf Breeze and work in downtown Pensacola, and it was just a complete and total mess. I kind of liked Pensacola, I have to tell you. I know it's like, it is sort of the deep south. It's not Miami Beach, but I actually had a good time. The food scene wasn't bad. There's some place called like is it the something grill downtown? Blue something? Does that ring a bell?
Not off the top of my head. My favorite restaurant's going to be the Grand Marlin out on Pensacola Beach.
Oh, Grand Marlin. Yeah. There was where I went when I was there? I went to Joe Patty's.
Ah, nice. Yeah.
Got some great crab legs.
Seafood you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, hope to make it down there again. Glad to hear the bridge is reopened.
All right. Thanks, David.
Okay, very good. There we go. There's Scott from Pensacola, working with a little bit of a delay, but we did the absolute best we could with it. You can only do so much with it. That's the reality. Let's go next to, where are we going? There's so many interesting callers. Let's go to Louis from New Brunswick. Louis, you're on the air.
Hey, good afternoon, David. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
So I really enjoy your show. First time caller, long time listener. My wife and I find ourselves in a strange situation.
Okay.
We're part of a church that's very, very right leaning. But politically, we're the opposite, except for some key issues. We feel like we have to almost keep it under wraps, our political bent. But we really have a hard time discussing just common issues with our brothers and sisters. Have you ever encountered anything like this before? And what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in some sense I have, in that listen, I'm not a religious Jew. I'm culturally Jewish, ethnically Jewish, culinarily Jewish. I'm not religious, but there are people in my circles who are more religiously devout Jews, and they have much more culturally conservative views, but it's not really become a problem. It's just like, I know those are their views and they know my views. Let me ask, what denomination, or what is this a Christian church?
It is. It's a Christian church. We're basically non-denominational. And the funny thing is that our congregation is becoming extremely multicultural. I'll give you a quick example. We had a Christmas, it's an Advent children's concert, I would like to say. And I want to say 90% of the children were non-white.
Okay.
And it was a great sight. Like our leadership is saying things like, look, if our community is very multicultural, then the church should represent that.
Right.
So I love that. However, I've noticed that a lot of the men in the leadership, or I would say not the leadership, a lot of the men who are very engaged are a lot more, I would say, Caucasian, and then skew heavily towards, I hate to say this, but Trumpism.
Well, I mean, let me just ask you, what's like a big issue on which you disagree with the general position of the church?
Well, that's just it. Like, it's not a position of the church to follow politics, but when a lot of people are like just spouting things that they heard on Fox News and worse, like OAN and Newsmax, it's really horrible. Like, for example, we were in a prayer meeting and someone was like praying against Nancy Pelosi. It was literally like a Fox News talking point.
Now, in a situation, I mean, listen, I don't know anything about churches, but in a situation like that, couldn't you stand up and say, listen, guys, it's not appropriate for us to be involving politics in this way. I'm not making a statement for or against anyone. I'm just saying this is a place for faith and community, not for politics. Like, could you say that, or would that not be well received?
Well, we have said that actually in our men's meeting. We've made a point that like we shall not ever talk politics because it's so divisive.
Right.
And when I've confronted people one-on-one about, say, like hypocrisy of Trump, or like that he lies, or he's like he's abused women or done horrible things, I've noticed that it hurts people's feelings, and like they recoil like they were personally injured. So my wife and I have learned like just not even to bring it up, and we just cringe and kind of like just hold our tongue when things come up.
Could you find a more liberal church? I mean, is that an option? I mean, I understand it's a big deal to change churches, I'm sure, but is it to the point where you would say, I want to find a different church?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up, because a lot of people who I've spoken about this outside the church say stuff like that, like, why don't you leave, dude? Like, why are you still there? And you know what it is like, there's so much love, there's so much relationships. We've been there for over 10 years. We feel like it would be like abandoning. It's just not an option. It's worth it, I think, just to like stay in the labor of love and like just see how things turn out.
Well, in that case, it sounds like you have your answer as to what to do, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we're staying.
Yeah. You sound pretty confident about that. All right, well, let me know how it goes. And by the way, I mean, listen, you're not saying that from the pulpit they're doing politics, right? Because that's actually against the church charter for nonprofits.
Right. No, they're not. There's even when Trump was like flying high and things were like, in their perspective, because now it's the opposite. Like, it's almost like a shame now, I think, even for Trumpists to talk about Trump, but or to defend him, I should say. But even when he was flying high, I would say like early in his administration, there were times where I have a feeling that the pastor crossed the line and people had to talk to him and say, you need to dial that back. Like,
oh, interesting.
You can't. Yeah. So It's a struggle, especially with the older generation. I would say like over 50, over 60.
Got it. Got it. All
David,
right. Well,
thanks for
keep us
taking the
posted
call.
on how it goes. Yeah. Thanks, Louis. Louis from New Brunswick dealing. That's quite a matzo ball hanging out there that he's dealing with. Proverbially, of course. I know it's a Christian church. All right. Let's go next to Mike from Massachusetts. Mike, you're on the air.
How you doing today, David?
I'm doing well.
Good to hear. I got two questions if we can go, if we have the time.
Please.
First, and if you've already spoken about this on your show and I missed it, I apologize for the repetition. What do you make of what's going on in Austria with their nationwide mandate, and that other countries in Europe are starting to inch towards doing the same thing? Do you, like a nationwide vaccine mandate, I mean, do you see that as simply a step too far for Western democracy, or is it kind of, or do you feel like maybe we've reached a point where the extreme circumstances require extreme solutions?
Listen, here's my view. Right. Dire circumstances require extreme solutions. My view is as follows. I'm trying to think about this as pragmatically as possible. My opinion on this is heavily biased by the fact that it's not going to happen in the United States. So when someone says to me, do you think it's too far or not? Might it happen? The United States is not going to have a literal vaccine mandate where the government says you must be vaccinated. They're doing stuff through employers, OSHA, employers must test, but it's just not going to happen. And so because I see that it's just kind of a non-starter, it's hard for me to say it would be the right or the wrong thing necessarily. I mean, I think it is morally defensible. At the same time, I think there are good arguments, legally speaking, for why it can be a work requirement, it can be a school requirement, it can be a requirement to avail yourself of certain types of businesses, but just a straight up mandate, I don't know legally whether it would stand in a completely broad-based federal way. Although there's people on both sides of that. I think my issue at this point is what is most likely to most quickly get us out of the pandemic. And by that, I mean to an endemic phase. It doesn't seem like it's going to go away. And it is about convincing the people we can convince to go and get vaccinated. And also, to some degree, it's about the reality that we don't interact with everyone. Like, the fact that there's a big anti-vax community in Mississippi is statistically very unlikely to affect my exposure to the virus. Sure, I might be on a plane with folks, but for the most part, it's like what's going on in my kind of more immediate community, travel spreads it, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm trying to focus more on sort of like, what can I do within my immediate community? And so to go back to your question, do I think it's right or wrong what Austria is doing? I don't fully know everything that's taking place in Austria, but it's not for me to say that they are right or wrong for doing it. This is what they're doing. I don't think it's going to happen in the United States. So my concern is, how can we get beyond the pandemic phase, given that there's not going to be a full-on vaccine mandate? I'm thinking pragmatically.
So I agree with you that it's extremely unlikely to happen at the federal level. That would be a very big uphill battle for any administration to take on. But do you see a certain point where maybe states might try to impose a statewide vaccine mandate? I really don't, Mike.
You know,
upheld by the Supreme Court in the past.
Yeah, I know it has. And there's this very important case from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I think it was 1903 that people point to as precedent. I think that Republican governors would never do it, and Democratic governors realize it would be politically problematic. So I don't think we're even going to see a mandate at the state level. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll eat my socks, you know?
Fair enough. All right, switch gears to a second question. I'll just try to keep things moving.
Sure.
So this might be purely opinion oriented at this point, but so the Supreme Court is hearing the Missouri abortion case today, or at least is hearing arguments on it.
Yep.
And I've been trying to do my own research and look into what certain experts think about what is going to happen, and the opinions are all over the map. Some people think that this should be so obvious that it's unconstitutional that the mere fact that they're hearing it is a bad sign.
Yes.
But then there are conservatives who are like, the Supreme Court always lets us down. It's going to be the same case this time. So, and obviously that's not me saying let down, but that's the conservatives saying that they get let down. I mean, what's your opinion on how this is all going to shake out? I mean, are we looking at the end of Roe v. Wade, or is this going to get shot down and conservatives are going to freak out again?
I have no idea. I really don't. I've read some of the same stuff you've read, it sounds like, and I don't even bother making a prediction because it's so unclear. It's sort of a wacky Supreme Court. It's strange times. I think anything could happen. I do think that if one of these really strict laws is upheld by the Supreme Court, it is the beginning of the end for Roe v. Wade. But as far as what is going to happen, I have no idea. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Thank you for taking my call.
All right. Mike from Massachusetts, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate everybody we were able to speak to. That's going to do it for today, but we will take calls again soon. And remember, December 14th at 6 p.m. will be a wide open viewer town hall where everyone is welcome to call in. More on that upcoming. If you value what we do at the David Pakman Show, remember to support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show, where you can get access to behind the scenes videos, the daily bonus show, the commercial free daily show, as well as special discounts on merch, including hats, hoodies, mugs, and t-shirts. You can support the show for as little as $2 a month. Check it out at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. All right, let's get into the mailbag, even including a Thanksgiving greetings from some, I guess, unexpected people, maybe, depending on your perspective from last week. If you want to have a chance at participating in the mailbag, you can email info@davidpakman.com. I do want to say this again, because unfortunately we're dealing more and more with this. If you're emailing every day, we're probably no longer seeing your messages when people email in too much. And there are people sending messages multiple times a day. There's no chance you're going to be in the mailbag. The emails are just sort of filtered into a folder. And, let's quality over quantity. Let's keep it there. info@davidpakman.com. Let's go right into the first one, which is, you're a loser and a racist, and of course, almost mandatory that which is supposed to be you are contracted to YOU''RE, misspelled as YOUR. My loser and a racist. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know when it became law that when you write hate mail, you have to put in the wrong your. But certainly we are seeing that very strongly in our email bag. So you're a loser and a racist. Thank you. Thomas wrote in about socialism. This is a good email, actually. Thomas writes, your remarks seem to indicate that the U.S. doesn't have socialism. If we take the broad definition, the U.S. has plenty. Social Security, Medicare, minimum wages, etc., and more than enough government support for large industries, a socialism that predates that for the majority. One political party has been trying for decades to eradicate socialism for 70 to 80% of the people, which would leave more wealth to shovel up to the plutocracy. If we don't take the broad meaning of the word, shouldn't we also drop the broad meaning of capitalism? Vulture capitalism, vampire capitalism, mom and pop operations, etc., corporations and the financial behemoths that use wealth of the capital class to rake more of it up for them. A lot of really good points here and points that we've made. When I say the United States is not a socialist country, what I mean is that at the top level, socialism, including a socialized ownership of the means of production, is not the model. Thomas is completely correct that in certain areas, we do have socialized services. And you can even include more police in most places. Some places have sort of like private police forces, but police in most places, firefighters in most places. Social Security is a socialization of sorts. Medicare, yes, we have the military. And so when we say we are not a socialist country, we mean one thing about it. We mean when the right says it's socialist to have Obama phones, as Jesse Lee Peterson once told me, or whatever. This is not a socialist country or government at the top level, but we have socialist elements within it for sure. Next email is from Bruce. Bruce says, David, what I'm wondering is, when is Elon Musk going to hop on one of these bee arcs that he is creating and going to crash into Venus, which is the planet he wants the Earth to become? Yeah, there's a lot more anti-Elon Musk sentiment in the email lately. And I did if you're interested in the topic of Elon Musk and Tesla, from the electric vehicle standpoint, on Black Friday, I did a stream where we did a lot of different things. But one of the things is I did talk about my increased, it's not dissatisfaction, but less enthusiasm about Tesla as the future of electric vehicles. I think Tesla was an early mover. And when it comes to the range of their vehicles, they're second to none. But there are other companies, including General Motors, Audi, just about all of them, that are generally speaking better at building vehicles. And I talked about where I believe Tesla is going to start having problems. It's less about the personality cult around Elon Musk, but if you're interested in that topic, check out that live stream from Black Friday. Very, very powerful live stream. Okay, here's a Thanksgiving greeting. Maybe you guys did not expect. On Thursday, Thanksgiving, I got an email from Jimmy from Philly, that furious, angry Trumpist who calls in. And he said simply, Happy Thanksgiving. There was no attack. There was no insult. There was no slur or the homophobia or transphobia that we've come to expect from Jimmy from Philly. Simply Happy Thanksgiving. He does email me sometimes, just to say hello. So not sure how many of you are surprised by that, but I did receive that. Next question is from Jeff. Jeff writes in and says, why the big microphone? David, sir, I see people online using tiny lavalier mics and they sound fine. Or those that wrap around your face. I know this is a stupid question, but why do you use such a big mic? At least it doesn't obscure your mouth like other YouTubers. I hope you're not compensating for anything. Big fan and website member. Yeah, I've talked about this before. There's a couple different reasons that I've stuck with the big mic. Years ago, when we tried the clip-on lavalier mics, we didn't have the ones that sounded that good. So I'm completely open to switching to a lav mic if someone can recommend to me one that really will sound as good as one of these larger condenser microphones. But a lot of people just listen to this show via the audio podcast. I don't want to have damaged sound quality. That's one reason. The second reason is our main studio is very well treated from the standpoint of echo and deadening the room and all of that stuff. Our backup studio, which we now have, is not. And using a lavalier mic, when I've tested it, is insanely echoey. And when traveling, I've got some travel upcoming where I'm going to be doing the show from different locations. It's so unpredictable what the room treatment is going to be. You might be, could be a hotel room with those kind of like padded, almost like it's like a painting, but it's just padded fabric. It's kind of like in now, which helps to deaden the sound, and carpets and whatever. Or it can be really echoey because it's so unpredictable. The large canister microphone just seems to sound better. But if someone can recommend a good lav that really will perform well in all of these scenarios, I will switch to it. Trust me, when I travel and I bring the big boy, I think every time it would be great to have a tiny little microphone. All right, Jeff, so I hope that's a comprehensive enough answer. This is a very sad email from Matthew. Matthew says, conspiracy theory aunt. Or he's from New York, so I guess he would say aunt. I'm Matthew from New York. My whole family is diverse Republican members, Trumpists, Trump haters, don't like the rhetoric but will vote for policies, and just classic Republican members, but all, as I know, vaccinated, except one, my aunt. She has conspiracy theories about the vaccine and the left so much that she thinks Trump is saying, get the vaccine, as a reverse psychology technique. I don't know what to do. I don't want to cut off, but I feel like I'm enabling her every time I talk to her about politics. What do I do? I get these questions all the time. I can't tell you, Matthew, what to do. You have to decide what is the emotional, psychological, mental health impact of being in contact with someone who is so disconnected from reality versus how much do you value the relationship with her and what effect it would have to cut her off in terms of the relationships between you and other people in the family? I can't answer that question for you. What I think is very interesting about this particular conspiracy theory is that it's an example of it's indefeasible. It's unfalsifiable, right? Because if Trump were to say, don't get the vaccines, a lot of these folks would say, see, Trump is saying don't get it. And if Trump says get it, anyone like Matthew's aunt can say it's reverse psychology. What he really is wanting people to do is not to get it, even though he's saying that you should get it. So that's any kind of unfalsifiable claim like that is very, very tough because no matter what he says, they come to the same conclusion. So I don't really have advice on the personal thing, but it is a very tough conspiracy theory to deal with. Next message came in via Facebook. I don't suppose you would be interested to hear or see this, but the restaurants in my town have started to put Let's Go Brandon on the bottom of tickets. I figured you know what it means. Guy Mon, Oklahoma pub on the bricks. Yeah, I've seen reports of this where you go, oftentimes at restaurants, the receipt has some kind of message at the bottom. Sometimes it's thank you for your business, happy holidays, thank you for coming, we appreciate you, stuff like that. There are some restaurants that have started to put at the very bottom of the rest of the restaurant receipt, Let's Go Brandon, which is, of course, code for F Joe Biden. It's one of the cringiest new right-wing phrases, which they think is super clever. And it's not. I wouldn't go to such a restaurant. If I ever saw that at the bottom of a receipt, I would never go back. Everybody's got to decide for themselves what to do. Last one coming in via Twitter. This user says, David Pakman, you seem to suffer from a pretty severe case of autism that has only intensified over the years. It's hilarious that you'd call anyone a doofus, referring to the judge in the Rittenhouse case. It's hilarious that you'd call anyone a doofus. How hard were you bullied growing up? Or were you just socially awkward to the point of becoming socially crippled? Very, very big shot across the bow. Of course, if anybody knew about my first jobs, which I've talked about here on the show, which were very, very much sales oriented, dependent on rapidly reading social cues and building rapport with people you've just met, you might come away with a different conclusion. But a very interesting response here to me saying that Rittenhouse judge was wacky, wasn't he? So congratulations to everybody who got their messages into the mailbag today. You can write in info@davidpakman.com. You might notice all of the emails that get on are one paragraph. So the multi-page emails, as much time as may have gone into them, which we appreciate very much, they're not going to make it onto the mailbag. And we have a fantastic bonus show coming up for you today. Sign up at joinpakman.com. You will get access to the bonus show instantly, as well as the commercial-free audio and video feeds of the show. We will see you then. Thanks a lot for watching today's show. I just want to take a second to tell you about today's sponsors. Blinkist is the app that helps you become a more well-rounded person by letting you read or listen to an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. You can try it for free and get 25% off a subscription by going to Blinkist.com/David Pakman.